Do you sell multifamily property or you want to get into the multifamily space? In this video, I'm going to break down 4 of my best tactics in order to enhance your ability to sell more multifamily properties. So let's start with the first thing, which is about lead generation. This has to be broken down into the lists you pull. So when you're pulling lists from Reonomy or CoStar, one thing to keep in mind is, number one, every single person has access to these lead lists. So this is incredibly important that you add a few filters to the list that you're pulling, so you at least are calling people who are more likely to sell than not. And this is broken down to a few simple things. Number one, the property has not been sold in the last 10 years minimum. Sometimes you can do as much as 15 or 20 years. If you're calling in a certain area, you want to focus on properties that have not sold within the last 10 years at a minimum. Number two is you want to find properties that are low leverage, which means that they don't have a lot of debt. Because when they have very high leverage, they have a lot of debt on the property, or they just refinanced the property within the last 2 years, they're probably not going to sell when they have a super low rate in that property. But the last time they refinanced was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. By doing that, and they have a low leverage deal and they have not refinanced or sold recently, you're going to end up finding more people who are open to selling for a fair price. And the third key when it comes to pulling lead lists is understanding that someone who owns 20 or 30 properties is probably going to be less motivated to sell one of their properties than somebody who owns 2. And this is because if they own 20 or 30 properties, they're probably in the business of buying multifamily properties, okay? That is their organization, that's what their business does. So they're gonna probably be less likely to sell. They're gonna be more in the buy and hold world, right? Like they're gonna be looking for more properties. But if they only own 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 properties, they might be more open to selling one of their properties because it's probably not their full-time business. So people who've owned a property over 10 years, people who have low leverage, and people who own maybe 1 to 3 properties is going to be a perfect fit for the list that you're pulling. So part number 2 is all about scripting. Now you've pulled an amazing lead list. What the heck do I say to them? First thing you can do is you can go to the description down below and you can download my free script book, check out exactly what I say to these individuals. I also want to mention to you that the questions that you're asking for multifamily when it comes to the financials and the details about the property are obviously going to be very different from different asset classes. Things you're going to want to know are the following. Number 1, what renovations have they done in the last 10 years, if any? Number 2, how are the utilities broken down? Do the tenants pay all utilities, including water, which is a huge thing that people that, oh yeah, the tenants pay for everything. No, but I pay for water and I actually pay for common electric and common heat. You want to get very clear on who pays what for the utilities. You also want to ask questions like, do they pay for parking? If there's extra people, is there a garage in the back? Do they pay for the garage space? You're going to want to ask specific questions about how that's broken down. You also want to ask, how are the units broken down in a bedroom and bath count? Because if someone says they're looking for a crazy price per door and they're all studios, now they're crazy out of their mind. If someone says they want a pretty decent price per door, when you ask the question of like, do you happen to have a price in mind? And they say, I want $180,000 a unit, but they're all 3-bedroom units, especially, I'm talking about just New Jersey as an example. That might be a really good deal. You need to ask like the breakdown of how many units there are and what is the bed and bath count per unit. Asking these specific questions is going to allow you to come to a conclusion in your head of how good of a deal or how motivated is this person. Asking key questions about the unit mixes are going to allow you to come to a better conclusion than just asking questions out loud like, oh, what's the financials? Because that will allow you to come to a better conclusion than just assuming. The next part about this is understanding the geographic location and the marketplace. What this is basically talking about is you need to have a good understanding of your marketplace when it comes to a price per unit basis. So you need to know within a certain reason, within a certain percentage, that average studios in this area go for X price per unit. Average 1-bedrooms go for this price per unit. Average 2-bedrooms, average 3s. And if you have access to any off-market properties all across the country, my investors are looking for ways to move their money. So you have great off-market deals. I want to see it, so you can make sure you go in the description. You can schedule a call with my team. We'll see if we can do some business together. When it comes to market knowledge, again, you want to be able to understand the average price per unit, but you also want to be able to know how to increase the valuations of these properties. So when you're asking questions about the unit mixes, you want to ask questions like, hey, just curious, how big are those 1-bedroom units? Are these able to be made 2-bedrooms? Are the 2-bedrooms able to be made 3-bedrooms? Are the studios able to be turned into 1-bedrooms? How big are the units? If you have, all 1-bedrooms, but they're all like 700, 800 square feet, sometimes you can turn them all into 2-bedroom units. This will sometimes increase the value by double. Even asking simple questions like that is going to see like, hey, is this going to be a good investment for my investor or myself? This is why you need to have a good understanding of the local market knowledge. And point number 4, honestly might be most important, is becoming a fantastic negotiator. Because if you want to dominate in any asset class, especially multifamily, there's a lot of sharks in this industry. There's a lot of people playing in this pool. In order for you to be above the rest, you need to be a fantastic negotiator. A couple ways to work on this are the following. Number one, make a lot of offers and don't be afraid to lowball. What this means is that you're gonna get some practice by just doing the damn thing, right? Which is you find a property, you ask all the right questions like we've talked about here, you understand the market knowledge, you were given the financials, you underwrite the deal, and now you're gonna say like, hey, they want 2 million, but I'm gonna offer them 1.4 million and just see what they say. And then you're gonna get some feedback and you're gonna be able to practice. I mean, we've negotiated thousands of deals, and some went through and some didn't. You have to build that muscle, because the only way to build that muscle is by doing repetition. So if you don't have any repetitions yet, let's start getting some repetitions in, which means you need to submit some offers. Number two is when you're submitting these offers is also realizing that negotiating is about who wants it more. If you want it more, you are going to probably lose. If you need this deal to happen, like you're like, I need this deal to happen or I'm not gonna be able to pay my rent, and you have that level of energy on the phone when you're speaking to this individual, and that's how you're coming across, you're going to probably lose in that negotiation. But when you have nothing to lose, right, and you don't need it, that's the level of confidence that you need to have when you're negotiating. They want 2 million, it's probably worth 1.7, you come in and offer 1.4 million. That's insanely low. Listen, I understand. I'm not expecting you to accept the offer, but at what price does this get done? I don't want to get emotional. Don't be emotional. And when they say 1.7 maybe gets it done, like honestly, maybe I can do 1.6. It's like, okay, listen, I'm going to do my best to try to get you the best offer possible, and I assured you that day one, and I'm going to continue to try to do that. Listen, they're at 1.4 now. I'm sure I can get them up a couple bucks. I'm going to see how close I can get to that 1.6, 1.7 number. And then you come in at 1.55 and you maybe get a deal done. The point is, you don't get emotional. You don't get tied into their emotions, because it has nothing to do with you. I've had people scream at me, how dare you make me an offer? You're absolutely ridiculous. I didn't tell you to accept it. I just made you an offer like you requested. So at what price gets this deal done? It's not being emotional, it's being high energy, and also realizing I don't care if this deal gets done. I made you an offer. And the best thing that I can do is just have that no attachment to that. And this way, when I make you an offer, no matter what they say, I don't get emotional about it, and I know that we could just move on to the next step. So build up those repetitions, don't get emotional, and just realize it's gonna take time to build that muscle. All right, guys, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Again, we're gonna have a lot more of these series going on for multiple different asset classes, so make sure you stay tuned to that. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you have yet to do so. Appreciate you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.